All right, let's dive in. This time on the deep dive, we're lacing up and exploring the world of Nike with Phil Knight's memoir, Shoe Dog.
Shoe dog, yeah.
We're going to uncover the wild ride behind this iconic brand
This could be a wild ride.
and see what lessons we can all glean from Knight's journey. So are you ready?
Absolutely, I'm ready. This is not your typical business book.
Oh, yeah.
Shoe dog. It's raw, personal. It's really like you're getting a glimpse into Knight's mind.
I like that. A glimpse inside the mind of a guy who builds a global empire.
Exactly, from a simple idea. So simple.
And speaking of those simple ideas, Knight talks about this idea of play.
Play.
Yeah, he says it's like the secret to happiness, not just in leisure, but in life.
Interesting.
Have you ever felt that kind of complete absorption in what you're doing?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That exhilaration?
Totally.
Because that's what Knight was chasing.
He was chasing that feeling. Got it.
And it's interesting how he links this idea of play to his whole entrepreneurial drive.
Yeah, what do you mean?
Well, it wasn't just about building a business for him. It was about building a life around something he truly loved.
Okay, that makes sense.
It was like this passion that fueled so many of his early decisions, like right after business school.
What'd he do? Go get a nice corporate job?
Nope. Instead of searching for a stable job, he goes on this crazy trip around the world.
No way.
He was exploring Japan, India. He even climbed Mount Kilimanjaro.
Wow, that's not the usual path.
And it's during these travels he stumbles upon what he calls his crazy idea.
Ooh, a crazy idea. I love those. So what was it?
Okay, picture this. It's post-World War II, Japan.
Okay.
Their economy is booming, but their products aren't really seen as top tier, in the U.S.
Yeah.
So Knight senses an opportunity here,
I bet.
specifically with running shoes.
Running shoes. Interesting.
And he ends up at the Onitsuka Tiger Factory in Kobe.
Oh, wow. The tiger shoes. So is this where it all begins?
It is. And picture this. This young, kind of unassuming guy convincing seasoned Japanese executives to give him distribution rights for tiger shoes in America.
Whoa, so he just like walked in there and was like, hey, I'm your guy in America.
Pretty much. It's audacious. And he starts Blue Ribbon Sports, the company that would later become Nike,
Nike, wow.
with a $50 loan from his dad.
You're kidding me, $50.
It's a true testament to his belief in this crazy idea.
That's insane. And his willingness to take a leap of faith.
Exactly. A massive leap of faith. And he starts small, selling shoes out of the trunk of his car
Out of his car.
and then from his parents' house.
No way. That's amazing.
I love that there's a picture of his mom wearing tiger shoes while doing chores.
Aw, that's adorable.
Talk about family support.
For real.
But then he brings in someone who's even more passionate about the shoes than he is, Jeff Johnson,
Who's Jeff Johnson?
his old track rival.
Oh, wow. From rival to business partner.
Johnson was key. He wasn't just a salesman. He was like an evangelist for tiger shoes.
I could see that.
He'd bombard Knight with letters full of ideas, spreading the word about the shoes.
Sounds like a marketing genius.
He was, and it really helped Blue Ribbon grow
I
organically.
love that. And so at this point, it's Knight and Johnson.
Right, but then enters Bill Bowerman,
Who's Bill Bowerman?
Knight's legendary track coach from the University of Oregon.
Oh, wow. Legendary coach. I bet he knew a thing or two about shoes.
He did.
Yeah.
Not only does he become a co-founder, but he brings this obsession with innovation to the company.
Okay, so he wasn't just a coach, he was an innovator.
He was relentless, always experimenting, trying to create a better running shoe.
I wonder what he came up with.
Well, get this. He used his wife's waffle iron to create the iconic waffle sole.
No way. The waffle sole came from a waffle iron.
That's the story. And speaking of leaps of faith, Bowerman's wife used her Christmas Club savings to help fund Blue Ribbon.
Whoa, betting the family Christmas on a shoe company.
Now that's dedication. And their belief really paid off.
I bet those shoes were everywhere.
Those early waffle shoes were a hit. But here's where things get interesting.
Oh.
Knight was pushing for rapid growth,
Okay.
but it was actually stressing out his banker.
What? How could growth stress out a banker?
Well, the banker thought a 100% increase in sales was troubling.
Seriously, a 100% increase is troubling.
It really shows the tension between Knight's vision and the traditional financial world.
Yeah, for sure.
He was operating on instinct, on passion, and a willingness to take risks that many wouldn't understand.
I wonder if people thought he was crazy.
Probably, but it makes you think, how much risk are you comfortable with when you're pursuing your own goals?
That's a good question. Definitely something to think about.
It takes guts to go against the grain like Knight did, And initially, his risk-taking was paying off.
So what happened?
Things started to go sour with Onitsuka.
Oh, no, really? What went wrong?
They had all kinds of problems, production delays, quality issues, and this growing sense of mistrust between them.
Oh, I see.
And it became clear that if Blue Ribbon was going to thrive,
Yeah.
they needed more control. So they made a pivotal decision.
What did they do?
They broke away from Onitsuka
Whoa, that's huge.
and created their own brand,
Mar
Nike.
Wow.
They needed a logo
Oh, that's right.
and the iconic swoosh we all know today.
Such a simple logo, yet so recognizable.
It was designed by a college student for just $35.
$35. That's it. What a steal.
It's amazing how this simple symbol would come to represent so much.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
But even with the new brand and that logo, their challenges weren't over.
What do you mean?
Now they were completely independent, which meant finding new manufacturing partners outside of Japan.
So where'd they go?
Knight set his sights on Taiwan.
Taiwan.
It was a big move, but he was determined to forge a new path for Nike.
That takes guts.
He knew he needed a solid team to face these challenges.
Teams are so important, that's for sure.
So he brought in people like Johnson, Woodall, and Strasser.
What were they like?
Each of them had unique skills, different personalities,
A diverse team,
but they shared a common goal.
which is
They believed in what Nike could become. And this is where we see the power of teamwork come in.
it's true. When you have the right people around you, it makes all the difference.
Absolutely. But even with a great team, things weren't always easy for Nike.
Ah, I bet there were more challenges.
They faced tons of hurdles early on.
Like what?
They had manufacturing problems, currency fluctuations, even legal battles with their competitors.
Like Adidas.
Exactly. It was an uphill battle.
I can imagine.
But Knight's resilience really shines through.
So he never gave up?
Never. He tackled each obstacle head on and wasn't afraid to get creative.
What do you mean by creative?
Well, there was this time when they were facing a cash crunch. Creditors were knocking at the door.
Oh no, that's scary.
So they came up with this elaborate system to keep the creditors separated.
What? How did they do that?
It was almost like a game of musical chairs.
Seriously, that sounds a little absurd.
It was a bit absurd, but it shows how resourceful they were, their ability to think outside the box.
They found a way to avoid disaster with creativity and a little humor.
Exactly, and I think that's one of the things that makes Shoe Dog so captivating. It's not just a boring business story.
You're right. There are those moments of humor that make it relatable.
Even in these high-stakes situations, there's room for levity.
Totally. So what happens next?
Well, as Nike's success keeps skyrocketing,
Okay.
Knight starts to wrestle with this internal conflict.
What kind of conflict?
He built this company that's all about pushing limits, achieving the impossible.
Right.
But he also sees the potential downsides of unchecked ambition.
I can see that.
He saw the competitive pressures, the cutthroat tactics,
Yeah, it can get ugly out there.
and he starts to think about the ethical implications of success, asking himself, at what cost?
That's deep.
And this is where the book takes a deeper, more introspective turn.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes not just a celebration of victory, but a reflection on the complexities of that victory.
So it's more than just a business story.
Definitely. And it raises a question for us all. How do we define success? Is it just about achieving our goals, or is there something more to it?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer.
And this leads us to a pivotal moment for Nike.
What happened?
They decided to go public.
Wow, that's huge.
Knight knew this was a big step, one that would change the company forever.
I bet he was nervous.
It's a transition that comes with excitement, but also trepidation.
For sure.
He was going from this maverick entrepreneur to the leader of a public company,
That's a big shift.
with all the scrutiny and expectations that come with it.
Absolutely. I wonder how he handled it.
Well, to find out, we'll have to dive deeper into the next part of this deep dive.
Can't wait.
So we left off with Nike facing these growing pains.
Manufacturing issues, the competition heating up, yeah.
It was a lot to handle,
Definitely.
but Knight starts having these deep thoughts about it all.
Deep thoughts, like what?
Well, what really stood out to me
Yeah.
is how he's grappling with his own definition of success.
Success.
He'd achieved incredible things, built this amazing company,
Right.
but there's this tension, this underlying tension.
What do you mean?
He wants to leave a mark on the world, but as Nike grows,
Yeah.
you can sense him questioning the cost of that ambition.
So it's like success isn't always what it seems.
It's not this one-dimensional thing.
Right.
There are these ripple effects that impact everything.
Your family, your values,
And he even talks about this fissure he feels,
a fish.
where he realizes his own sons aren't that into sports.
Oh, wow.
It's like this disconnect between his life's passion and the next generation.
That's got to be tough.
It's a very human struggle, even for someone who's built an empire.
For sure, it makes you think about your own legacy, you know?
Definitely. What mark do we want to leave on the world?
And how do we balance that with our personal lives?
Exactly. But okay, back to Nike. Remember those butt-face meetings?
Butt face.
The name itself is hilarious.
It is. What were they?
These intense strategy sessions where they'd hash out all the company's problems.
Sounds intense.
But there was this camaraderie, a sense of humor.
So it wasn't all serious business all the time.
Not at all. And it's like they were this band of brothers, united by this crazy idea that became a global phenomenon.
And speaking of crazy ideas, what about all the innovation at Nike?
They were obsessed with pushing boundaries, always experimenting.
What were some of the big ones that stood out to you?
Well, the air sole has got to be up there.
Aerosol, yeah.
This eccentric engineer named Rudy comes in with this idea for air cushioned soles.
Air in the soles, that's wild.
Everyone was skeptical,
Even Knight.
even Knight, but they saw the potential and trusted Rudy's vision.
It paid off.
Big time. It revolutionized athletic shoes,
It's still iconic today.
and it shows Knight's willingness to embrace the unconventional.
To trust people who challenge the status quo.
Exactly. But innovation isn't always smooth sailing.
What do you mean?
They designed this shoe, the LD1000.
The LD1000, never heard of it.
It was supposed to be the ultimate running shoe, packed with every innovation they could imagine.
And so what happened?
It ended up causing injuries.
No, serious.
Talk about a setback.
That's got to be tough.
It shows that even with the best intentions, innovation can have unintended consequences.
True, but it's how they responded that matters.
And they didn't shy away from responsibility. They issued a recall,
Wow, that's big.
learned from their mistakes, and kept pushing forward.
So what does this tell us about Knight?
It shows incredible resilience.
He could just given up.
It would have been easy to get discouraged, but they used it as a learning experience.
Resilience seems to be a recurring theme for him.
It is. He faces all these challenges, financial crises, legal battles,
Yeah, it's never easy.
but he never gives up. He was a master at navigating those storms.
Sometimes using some pretty unorthodox tactics.
Remember that story about the cash crunch when creditors were knocking at the door?
Oh, yeah.
They came up with this system to keep the creditors separated.
What? Like how?
It was almost like a game of musical chairs.
Seriously, that's hilarious.
It shows their resourcefulness, their ability to think outside the box.
It's like they turned a potential meltdown into a game.
And I think that's what makes Shoe Dog so engaging.
Agreed. It's not just a business story. There's humor woven throughout.
It makes it relatable.
Mhm.
Reminds us that even in tough situations, there's room for levity.
So true. But as Nike's success keeps growing,
Yeah.
Knight starts to grapple with this internal conflict again.
Right. He built this company that's all about pushing limits.
But he sees the downsides of that ambition.
Exactly. The competitive pressures, the cutthroat tactics.
They can take a toll.
And the book takes this deeper turn. It becomes a reflection on the complexities of victory.
So it's about more than just winning.
Definitely. And then comes a pivotal moment.
What happened?
Nike decides to go public.
Wow, that's huge.
And Knight knows this will fundamentally change the company he built.
I bet it was a mix of emotions.
Excitement and trepidation, for sure.
What do you think about this shift for Nike?
It seems like a natural progression for a company growing that fast.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But I'm curious to see how Knight handles it, this new level of responsibility.
Balancing his own vision with the demands of Wall Street.
And of course, we got to hear about the IPO itself.
Did it live up to the hype?
Let's find out. We'll dive into all that in the next part of this deep dive.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so the big day arrives. Nike's going public. They set the share price at $22.
$22? That seems...
Knight really fought for that price.
Oh.
He believed it reflected the true value of the company.
Not some inflated Wall Street number.
Exactly. You can sense this struggle to maintain control.
Even though he's giving some of it up.
And here's where it gets really interesting on the day of the IPO.
The day he becomes a multimillionaire, what happens?
Knight admits to feeling a sense of regret.
Regret. Really? Why would he regret that?
Unexpected, right? He describes it as this fissure,
A fissure.
a crack in the bedrock of his existence, this complex emotion.
So what's behind it?
It's like this realization that his crazy idea had become this massive corporate entity.
A far cry from the scrappy startup.
Yeah, and it's amplified by the fact that his sons aren't even that into sports.
Oh, wow. That's got a sting.
It's like his life's passion, the driving force behind Nike.
Might not resonate with the next generation.
It makes you think about the legacy we build.
Not just in business, but in life, what are we passing on?
Powerful stuff. But even as Knight's wrestling with this internal conflict,
Yeah.
Nike faces some external challenges.
Oh, like what?
The sweatshop scandal in the late 90s.
Oh, yeah, that was a big one.
It forced Nike to confront some uncomfortable truths.
About their supply chain.
Knight admits he was blindsided by the criticism.
What does he say?
He says he didn't fully grasp the extent of the problems in some factories. It's a lesson in accountability, the need for transparency.
Especially for a company with global reach.
It's tough realizing that your success might have come at a cost to others.
It is, but to Knight's credit, he didn't shy away from responsibility.
Well, he owned it, implemented reforms, worked with labor rights groups.
To improve those factory conditions?
It was a long process, but it shows a willingness to learn from those mistakes.
And to use their influence to drive positive change.
And this whole experience led to the girl effect.
The girl effect, what's that?
This Nike-led initiative focused on empowering young girls.
Where? Like around the world?
In developing countries, it stemmed from this realization that investing in girls' education
Okay.
had this ripple effect, benefiting families and communities.
Wow, that's a powerful idea.
Pretty inspiring how they channeled a negative experience into something so positive.
It shows their commitment to evolving, making a difference.
And as Knight's story ends, he reflects on everything he's learned,
The ups and downs.
the triumphs and failures. He emphasizes resilience,
Never giving up.
even when faced with seemingly impossible obstacles,
That's a great message.
and the power of teamwork, surrounding yourself with people who share your
You
passion.
who challenge you.
It reminds us that even a visionary like Knight couldn't have done it alone.
It took a village to build Nike.
It did, and Knight's story really is a testament to the power of a crazy idea
To going after it no matter what.
and that unwavering belief in yourself and your team.
Belief is so important.
It's a reminder that success is a journey, not a destination, and it's rarely a straight line.
So true, there are always bumps along the way.
And as we wrap up this deep dive into Shoe Dog,
Yeah.
I'm left with a question for you. What's your crazy idea?
Ooh, good question.
What's that thing you're passionate about that you believe in, even if others don't?
Like Knight's journey with Nike.
Exactly. His story is a call to action, an invitation to embrace that Shoe Dog spirit.
To chase your dreams, never stop pushing those limits.
Find your play and make your mark on the world.
And remember,
There is no finish line.